to the camera and start talking about the first festival you've gone to and things like that.
Okay. Hi, I'm Marge Jordoin, and I've been attending the Seattle International Film Festival for a number of years. I think my first exposure was when it was still down at the Moore on downtown, on 2nd Avenue. And I went to see maybe 2-3 films. I think that was when I was in my Akira Kurosawa Film Fest period, and I was going to see anything that he had put out, and there were a couple being shown that year, I believe. And just because of money situations, I probably only attended a few films for the next several years. But I was trying to figure out when I first started getting really heavily involved. Ta-da!
I've never seen that.
You've never seen this one? This is from the 6th. And I'm sorry to say this, guys, but I must say that the most recent catalogs don't thrill me as much as the original ones. I mean, look at that cover. Or this cover. I love this cover. Yeah. That one.
That was the first festival I attended.
This is the first one you went. That's how I noticed when I went to different ones, because the covers or the posters. Oh, I remember that one. Yeah. Let's see. I think I figured out that the first one I actually did the full series was the 14th or the 15th? Yeah. The 14th. My first full series pass. I have 9 years worth of full series passes on my Mastodon, who has been my seat saver and neck rest. And if he looks a little squashed, well, how do you expect to have a Mastodon look after he's been pulled out of a glacier, you know? So,
So what was the, do you remember the moment that you bought tickets and you said, hey, this is ridiculous, I'm just going to buy a full series pass? Do you remember when that moment was?
That's a good question, because I did find each year I was having incremental increases. First it was 2 or 3 films, and then it was 1 6-film series, and then it was 2 6-film series. And at the point when I realized I was spending $150, I said to myself, maybe it's time to think about a full series pass. And I went ahead and got one that next year, and from then on I was absolutely sold. And of course, I make it my Christmas present to myself. So in December you save $100 or $150, and I get the full series pass, and I'm all set. And from that time on, I was just sold, because you don't have to stand in line as long. You have regular seats. You can stay in your seats. And then I began to realize that there was a whole community that was built around being a full series pass holder. I don't think it started out being intentional, but just because we would see each other every year, it took me a few years to get friendly enough to start really talking to others. I'm kind of a recluse on my own.
Me too.
But I noticed there were 3 years running that I ended up sitting in the same seat in the Egyptian, next to, or right in front of, this other fellow, and for 3 years in a row he was reading the same Danish novel and I was knitting the same sweater. So we began comparing notes, and we would save our seats for each other as we went to different shows, and we've become pretty good pals now, and we talk a lot. And I noticed, the sitting in the same seat thing. Are you going to be editing this later?
Yes.
Good.
I want to have SIFF play it, so I have to make sure that things are on the up and up.
It was really funny. One year we came in the first day of the festival into the Egyptian, And one of the ushers, who was a woman who had been ushering for several years, walked in and looked around. "Oh yes, you're all in your places." There's this thing about the full series pass people having their favorite seats, and we always end up in almost the identical same seats. In fact, we've talked on various occasions about if they really wanted to make some money, they ought to sell us brass plaques. There's a natural. And I had somebody email me this year, because I'm also on a genealogy mailing list, and apparently this person's mother picked me up off the genealogy list because I made some reference to the film festival, and I've added that page to my website, and asked him if he knew me. And so he emails me and he says, "Are you the woman that sits in such a seat? Because I'm always sitting in this seat." So that was kind of cute. But movies. You mentioned something in an earlier conversation about what got people interested in attending films, and I've been thinking about that a lot since you brought it up. And I think for me, I'm a real TV generation child. The first generation of TV viewing and stuff. Even though I didn't see TV until I was about 6 or 7 years old on a regular basis, and can remember radio prior to that. In our particular household, which tended to be a bit dysfunctional, as so many are, TV saved the day at dinner time. We'd watch TV, we wouldn't be bickering. But also the only other family activity we did that was really fun and meaningful was going out to the movies every Saturday night or Friday night or whenever it was. And some of those films really affected me. I remember them very, very vividly. One of the issues that has come up at the film festival has to do with films that are being remade.
Yes.
Especially some of the foreign films like 3 Men and a Baby that suddenly gets remade almost instantaneously into an American version. Hate it, absolutely hate it. But one that was recently remade was Invaders from Mars, and I hated the remake. The original was so good, and I remember that from when I was a little kid. It just riveted me, and I think one of the things that got to me about it was the fact that it was child-based. In fact, I find that a lot of the films I really enjoy in the film festival are child-based, child point of view-based films. I note that one of my very, very favorite ones is this poster back here too, Into the West.
Oh. I haven't seen that one yet.
The advertising for it was all wrong. They try to toot it as a Western, which is really stupid. It's an Irish film, and it's really about a lot of Irish legend and a lot of Irish culture, imagery and all. It was absolutely captivating. The music, the images, the family problems that were being addressed, the whole thing was just riveting to me. I was on the edge of my seat the whole time. So it's odd that it got marketed the way it got marketed, but I was glad to have seen it at the festival. Anyway, I was saying that these child-based images, I think even Wuthering Heights, which starts out with being about the children and this child that was brought into the home, has that same effect on me. And my poster, this is my one what shall I say? I have attended more than one poster auction, but this was the one that I really bid for, got into a bidding war for. This other woman wanted it real bad too. And it's not like it was one of the very best movies that we saw. It was an Icelandic saga, and those are one of my guilty pleasures at the festival. I love seeing the Icelandic sagas almost as much as seeing the samurai films or other people of other kinds. But There was something about this film, partly because it was based on the little girl's viewpoint of what was happening. And this poster in and of itself, just the image of her in this slightly medieval garb with these old-fashioned glasses. I'm a medievalist too. My school background was in medieval history and all. It just really struck me, and this woman and I started bidding for this poster. And she would go up, and I would go up, and she would go up, and I would go up, and I couldn't let it go. We ended at $77, but I got it.
It's a work of art.
It's fun. Another film that came up during the festival, though, was Gone to Earth. It's an old English film. It was actually shown 2 years in a row. I think it's a William Wyler film. And it had been shown here much earlier as under another name. But I saw that film and I remembered it, and I couldn't quite remember if I remembered it from being a child in TV showing of it, or if I had seen it in the movies. But again, it was one of these pivotal films that seemed to have fed my subconscious level. And I watched this film at the festival, and I was just, everything about this woman, her point of view, the things that happened to her, the place where she's at, were reminiscent to me of who I am as a human being, who I am as a person. Even the fact that the thing was filmed in Shropshire, I ended up in my medieval history studies going to an archaeological dig in Shropshire and spending a lot of time near Shrewsbury. And I didn't realize it at the time I was there, but when I came back and was at the film festival and saw this movie, I suddenly realized I was meant to go to Shropshire. I mean, I wanted to be in that imagery, in that environment, and it felt like it had been almost foreordained. I don't know that it was, but it felt like that. And there are a number of things that I run into like that while I'm at the film festival. I think one of the things I enjoy about being at the film festival, as opposed to just going to movies from time to time, I have people ask me, how can you possibly absorb that many movies all at one time? I mean, I have had a couple of years where I've done 75 films or more in a single 3-week period. It's interesting. Getting them all at once that way, I feel as though I almost tap into the collective unconscious, because invariably there will be 1 or 2 major themes that seem to run through a given year. And I don't think it's that much to do with the people who are choosing the films zeroing in on specific topics. I think it really is a kind of bringing to the surface of more generalized issues or more generalized energy. And it can be really interesting to see those same topics redone in a dozen different forms out of a dozen different cultures. It's fascinating to me, and I don't think I would get that hit just looking at a variety of films throughout the year. The other advantage of the Film Fest is that you have all these cultures and all these films that you'll never see again. I mean, they pass this way but once, and they won't be brought back, they won't be distributed or whatever. So being a full series pass holder, as opposed to just having a ticket for 6 films, you're much more inclined to go see everything than you would be if you had to pick and choose and pay those kind of rates for them. There have been some neat things that have happened, you know, like I loved the Siberian movie that was dubbed in Russian, for which there were no readable subtitles. And they had to bring somebody out to read the script on a microphone while the film was being shown. I mean, you don't get that except at the film festival. You know?
That's funny. Was that a long time ago?
It was maybe 6 or 7 years ago. I don't remember, but that was a great moment. You know, there have been terrible moments. I mean, the showing of Little Buddha opening night. Film breaks twice in the first 5 minutes. The director is there. He runs out of the room. You know, I mean, he's so upset. But we're a good audience. You know, we take all these things in stride, and there's not a lot of heckling or anything, you know, and we really appreciate it. The Full Serious group, I have really appreciated being part of this the last few years, especially because I have started to get to know a number of the people, and we do talk and we'll share rides or whatever. One of the things I really do appreciate about the Full Serious group, though, is that I think it really represents the grassroots movement within the Seattle Film Festival. I was really thrilled when Daryl told us this year that we've become like the biggest film festival in the country with the largest attendance. I love that idea, the idea of that. I also am conscious of the fact that I don't want to see us get so big that we start to get pretentious. You know, that's sort of go Hollywood thing. And I think one of the things that's really neat about the Seattle Film Festival is that it really is kind of grassroots. A lot of the people who attend and a lot of the Full Serious people who attend are real experts on films. There's no denying that. They're real aficionados and film buffs, and they know the directors and they know how to edit and they know all these things. I think a lot more of them are probably more like me. I know what I like and I know what I don't like, and I'm just an ordinary film goer. And I do it because I like to see my own soul reflected and sort of use it as self-psychoanalyzing tool, you know, and just enjoy it. So I hope we continue to have that wonderful kind of grassroots involvement and enjoyment. We have fun both with the festival and at the festival. I know that the Full Serious stuff hasn't really been festival condoned. Well, I guess it's condoned because they let us do it. But I know that, I suspect anyway, that the festival administrators are a little concerned perhaps about our own separate rating system and these other things that we've done behind the scenes. But I do want to say that that has been a wonderful aspect. I want to give credit. I really want to give credit to the guys that have really done the Full Serious work. Rox Gabriel and Paul, I'm not sure what his last name is. Yeah, and a couple of others. Because these computer nuts who pass out these forms for us to fill out every year on each and every film, and then who compile all that data in one night on the computer and have this wonderful sheet presented the next day that gives all these ratings and everything, has been wonderful. I take those to work with me. I put them on my door. I have people asking me all year long, what movie should I go see? And we consult my list. And I don't necessarily consult the catalog or the Golden Space Needle Awards, because those don't always really reflect for me what I felt was the real story, whereas the Full Serious stuff really does. So often the Golden Space Needle Awards have been the result of a big crowd at one film at one particular moment that everybody got real excited about, and everybody stuffs the ballot box, you know. Whereas those of us that have been attending everything will feel that there were a couple of other things that were really much better or whatever. So I really do appreciate the opportunity to have that analysis. But you know, it's also really interesting. It's fun. As well as I know a lot of the other Full Serious people, and we have conversations, and I get the sense that we all have maybe separate ways of looking at things and whatnot, but I feel fairly compatible with a lot of the people. It still amazes me how often we will have diametrically opposed opinions about a given film. It's mind-boggling. And it really has reinforced for me just how individual people's reactions are to particular films.
I think it has to do with age. Some younger people like certain films, and some people that have lived life can see more and say, you know, this means something else.
Or generation differences will alter how a particular film is viewed. I mean, the younger won't pick up on the stuff that the older people pick up on in terms of the meaning of the film. So that can be really interesting. One of the families I miss currently from years back, there was a period in the film festival years when a family would come. It was this couple and their, I don't know, he was like an 8-year-old boy, and then of course he was 9 and 10 or whatever. But he really seemed to get into it. And they would have these wonderful discussions afterwards about what they had seen, you know, and that really struck me as a wonderful family activity. I enjoyed meeting them and talking with them and stuff. I haven't seen them around quite so much recently. One of the other things I miss are the all-nighters. Now, we still have the Midnight Madness films, but those, by and large, aren't necessarily the films that appeal to me the most. They tend to be the more horrific or the blatantly sexual or whatever that I'm a little gun-shy about. But I also run into the problem that after 2 o'clock, my buses stop running. But I did attend the last all-nighter at the Egyptian, which was several years ago. I was trying to figure out which year that was.
Was that like a science fiction thing or something?
No, there were some all-nighters that were science fiction ones. Well, I won't waste time looking for it.
That's fine. So, what's your strategy when when the schedule comes out in, I guess, early May? Do you go by film, country by country, or do you just go day by day and choose a film?
Well, let me just finish this one story. This last all-nighter I went to, it was actually the first one I'd ever attended. And I loved it because people arrived in their jammies with their teddy bears. It was all very innocent. It was lovely. Everybody was well behaved. And they had this wonderful lineup of films. First they had a musical with Gene Kelly, big widescreen cinemascope, the one about three sailors coming to town. And that kept us very entertained. And then at 2 a.m. we had The Hidden Fortress, which is probably my favorite Kurosawa film of all time. I mean, the sight of Toshiro Mifune hugging this horse with just his knees, with his sword raised overhead, going pell-mell down the road. I mean, it just blows me away every time. Plus, there's an excellent, strong female role in that film, which is unusual for a Japanese film to have this strong princess role. And there are sparks flying the whole time. And the film has kind of a no quality, the no drama aspect of Japanese culture, where their movements are just slightly stylized, a little. And it was the original film that inspired Star Wars. Yeah. So I love that film. So that kept me awake through 2 o'clock because it was my favorite film. And then they had it perfectly scheduled, you see, because just as everybody was falling asleep, they showed the parallax view, which is set in Seattle, and has maybe 4 or 5 well-timed explosions. And so you'd wake up. And then the last film of the night was The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly. And there was enough gun shooting and whatnot in that you kept waking up. So that was really a wonderful experience, and I enjoyed that very much, and I was sorry that that was the last all-nighter. I suppose nowadays they have maybe legal issues surrounding that or something. But it was good because you didn't have to worry about getting home. So then you were asking about what's my strategy? Well, it's difficult because you don't really see a schedule until almost right before the festival, and then you may get the big schedule, but the blurbs are so small, it's difficult to see exactly what you're going to get. So I'll figure out what I want to see the first couple of nights. And once I have the catalog in hand and can see the full blurbs, I begin to make some choices. Now this is where the Full Serious group came in really handy, because they started giving us these sheets where we could cross-check when things were going to be repeated and what theater they were going to be at and stuff. And so you could go through and say, oh, well, let's see, if I see this one, I'm going to miss that one. But then if I see the repeat of that one down here. And now I also have a pocket computer that I can agenda and know what's against each other and whatnot. So it really is a very complicated procedure. But if you're devoted to the cause, and if you really want to see as many films as you want to see, you figure it out. It becomes a game, you know. It's nice when all the theaters are in fairly close proximity to each other. When we have the Egyptian, it looks like we've stopped using the Broadway for the moment. Having Broadway Performance Hall is not bad, although when it's really crowded it gets kind of hot. And the Harvard exit. I've given up trying to combine the Hill with the Guild 45 because I don't have a car, and taking the bus, I never make it on time back and forth. So those become strategies of you either see all the films at the Guild 45 that night or you don't go. There was 1 or 2 years when they were showing films down at the Pike Place Market where they had a van, and that was cool. Catching the van to go see the film. But you still had a bit of a, if there wasn't enough time between films, you had a struggle getting back to the next one you wanted to see. That was before they stretched out the schedule a little bit. They've recently, the last 2-3 years, made it so there's about an hour or so between each film, and that's made it easier and also gives you a chance to maybe grab a little something to eat. That's the other strategy question. If you're really going gung-ho, how do you eat? You cannot live on popcorn, candy, and pop. Or at least you shouldn't. And in fact, I did a presentation at my church this year on the film festival prior to it starting. And I showed them my bag, big canvas bag. And I realized that it is frowned upon to bring food into the movie theater. They do cut us just a wee bit of slack during the film festival. And so the big issue then is, please don't bring the big box of pizza that everyone can smell and salivate over and it disturbs. And don't bring the crunchy apples or the carrots or the celery, you know, because some people have trouble even listening to people chew popcorn. And use watertight bottles so that you don't make a mess. Yeah. I finally got around to spilling a huge thing of pop this last year, and I was so ashamed of myself. Film festival etiquette is a big deal, and anything left on the seat is a seat saver. If it's just a newspaper, it's a seat saver. You don't assume that it's empty. So we're always trying to educate the newbies, yeah, as they come into the theaters. And we also try, I think, not to alienate people, because it is real easy to fall into, I'm of the privileged class. So I try not to do that. Stories. It took me a long time, but I finally did get around to enjoying the fact that we do have people coming to appear at the film festival. I mean, I always enjoyed the fact that they were there. I remember seeing Alan Alda when we showed The Four Seasons. That was great. Lily Tomlin was fabulous, absolutely fabulous. But it took me a long time to actually get the courage up to go ask for autographs. And I now have a few catalogs that have, I just ran across Peter Coyote, and when we showed American Heart, I found Jeff Bridges out front all by himself and went up and said hello and told him how much I've loved all his films and got his autograph. But I think I'm proudest of a few unusual ones, like I got the autograph of the woman who was the first little girl to play in Walt Disney's earliest combined animation live shot films. Those were part of the nostalgia films that the festival shows. And she's now in her late 70s, early 80s or something, and who knows how long she's going to be around. But I got her autograph, and I figure that's a real collector saver. And I've gotten a couple of others. My best star encounter, though, I have to confess, took place when I was playing hooky. 2 years ago, it turned out that in the middle of the film festival, a local business down in Tacoma decided to put on Tacoma Trek, and I'm a Star Trek Trekkie, 30-year vet, and they were having some people from the original series and some other people, and I just said, I can't miss this. So I sacrificed a weekend at the festival and went to Tacoma Trek 2 years ago. Well, it just so happened that one of the first films at the festival was The Ox and the Eye, a film I loved. Now, apparently, some of the other film full series pass people saw the title and saw the blurb and decided it was a Disease of the Week film and didn't bother to go. So it didn't really have a very big turnout of full series people. I went, enjoyed it very much. It was about a paraplegic who can't function with arms and legs, and a man who's a football player who's gone blind. And so the one is the eyes and the other is the arms. And they both decide to do this river rafting trip. And apparently there is a real group in Oregon that combines people who are disabled in this way to enable them to have some kind of enjoyable adventure. And I thought that was great to advertise that group. And the film was great. Vincent D'Onofrio and Gregory Hines, you know, it was fantastic. Turns out that I was the sole vote on the upper end of the scale of the full series.
I've done that.
However, I went to the Star Trek convention, and who was there but Robert O'Reilly, who plays Gowron, the head of the Klingons. And he happened to be one of the supporting actors in The Ox and the Eye. So when I come round to the autograph line, wearing this shirt, by the way, I made a point, if I was playing hooky, I was going to advertise. You know, you have to realize that the full series people are your best upfront free advertisers for the festival. And I came up to the table, and there was Robert O'Reilly, and I said, oh, by the way, I just saw you in The Ox and the Eye. You saw me in The Ox and the Eye, and his bug eyes, bug eyes. I haven't seen me in The Ox and the Eye. Where did you see me? I said, I was just at the Seattle International Film Festival, and it was showed last week. The Seattle International Film Festival? I've been wanting to see that. Who do I go to? Where do I go? Where's the ticket on? I said, hold on. And I went running up to my room. I just happened to have the sheet that I'd gotten my full series pass tickets in that had all the phone numbers and the email addresses and all of that stuff. And I come running back down, you know, I mean, I'm on a mission for the head of the Klingon High Council, you know. And I waited, and there was still a line going through getting autographs, and I didn't want to disturb people, so I waited till there was a little break in the line, and then I shoved this thing on the table, and I go, here you go, you asked for this. And I walk away, way across the room. Hey, Marge, thanks! So that was my fabulous star encounter with Robert O'Reilly that combined both my Star Trek stuff and my film festival stuff. It's been fun to see some of the transfer of activity from Hollywood to Seattle. I mean, the fact that we've got Tom Skerritt living up here now, and some other people like that you run into periodically at a movie or on the street. I'm very good, though, about not invading people's privacy and not going after them. So one of the nice things about the film festival is having an opportunity to feel that, well, if they're here, you're meant to meet them. So it's okay. And you can say hi, and it's okay. I think the absolute best year that we ever had, though, was, let's see, I figured this out. Was it the 19th or the 20th?
I have that poster too.
Yeah. There was one year that just was fantabulous. It was the year that had my mother's castle, my father's glory, Strangers in Good Company. There were like 20 films that year that were just all super fabulous, and it was just tremendous. Actually, this is a fun catalog too, because I was passing Twice Sold Tales. Now, Twice Sold Tales is a bookstore on Broadway or off Broadway. And they make a point when the film festival is out of putting out all these movie books and whatnot. There is a novel for which this is the cover art, and I found the book and I bought it and brought it home. I was going to find it for you and bring it out, but I've tucked it away somewhere to keep it safe as a collectible. So that was kind of wild. Let's see. What else can I talk about?
So have you ever done the Secret Film Festival? I know we can't talk about specific titles.
No. The Secret Film Festival, yes. I am somebody who loves to be, or hates to be left out of anything. Yeah. So I love the idea of the Secret Festival. And for a number of years, I've really enjoyed going. The only problem I've had with the Secret Festival is that every once in a while, they show something that's really controversial. And I kind of wish they wouldn't do that, although I suppose if it falls into that category because of other ramifications, like it's not supposed to be shown or something, that's the category it falls into. But when you don't know what you're going to see, and you arrive, and you find yourself watching something that you really can't handle, that's kind of uncomfortable. So it's a risk, but that's part of the joy of it too, I suppose. You can always get up and walk out. It's easier when you're a full series pass holder because even though you may be upset that you may have missed something else you could have gone to see, you don't feel like you've specifically spent money for that one particular item. But I do love the surprise element of the Secret Festival. And I love the secrecy aspect of it too. I have never divulged, never in 12 years, divulged what was at a Secret Festival. Even now.
I respect that. I've never asked. People try to tell me, and I say, no, I don't want to hear it.
I put reviews up on my webpage, but I just said, like, Secret Festival 1, shh. It was great. Or it was lousy, or whatever. I think it's a great concept. I want to know, I wish we could get our hands on some films that I've been wanting to see that I've never seen come out again. And I think they fall into the Secret Festival category perhaps because they're lost on somebody's shelf. But like The High and the Mighty. When's the last time you saw The High and... What's happened to it? I want to see The High and the Mighty. John Wayne and Claire Trevor and that wonderful soundtrack. That's the one that really sticks on my mind. Let's see, what haven't we talked about?
So have you met any, we talked about friends, I guess, that was the thing, but any other people that you kind of suggest I should try to get in contact with, or you can kind of pass the word on?
Well, to me, one of the big events among the film festival full serious group, we have one woman who, I have a terrible time with names, and she's a good friend of mine now, and she always gives me a ride home, and I'm embarrassed, but I can't think.
Okay.
She has kind of a crew cut hair with long hair.
I know what you're talking about. I don't know what it means.
She had a baby at the festival 7 years ago. I mean, she walked into the festival like a watermelon. And she had to leave in the middle of a film. And by the time the final closing night came and the closing night party, she was there with the new baby. So that was one of the stellar events of the film festival. I have won a couple of prizes. They've had some raffles from time to time. I won my red sweatshirt at a party raffle prior to one of the shows. And I was at a show where they gave away a pager, and I won the pager. So I feel quite lucky after umpteen years being at the festival.
We have to talk about the vest.
Oh, the vest.
I can take that off. Let me take that off. And then
walk and get the vest.
I'll let you know when my things are. Okay, now you can tell me the story about the other passwords have told me about your magical vest. You have to tell the camera about.
I guess I've become notorious for some of my festival accoutrements, like my vest. I wear this vest actually all the time because I hate carrying a purse, and if it isn't attached, I lose it. You know, so with this, I can have my keys attached, and I have my bus pass, and I have my money, and I have my this and my that, and it's all in the right place, and I know where to find it. And I do still have the big bag because I have to carry a couple of things when I'm at the festival. But you probably didn't recognize me before I put this on.
Yeah.
And
some of your passes, and you can, if you have any interesting stories about some of them, do you just use ordinary photos when you get your passes, or do you just?
I have a number of years here where they were doing the photos. I have 9 years worth of passes here on my Mastodon, from about, what is that, 91 or 90 on, 89 on. And they're all ugly.
I just asked.
However, there were a couple of years where I went and got my own pictures, and I thought I was being very artsy because I did sort of Judy Garland poses.
Oh.
Yeah. Or, yeah. I like them a little bit better. But I decided I had to save them because eventually I could make a necklace of some kind, or a waist cincher or something. And they make a nice conversation item. It's interesting, there were a few years at the beginning that they didn't put the year on. So I really have no idea what year it was, other than trying to guess the level of my grayness. But, and there were a couple of years that they did without photos, and I think they had to give that up right away, because people, of course, do trade off cards if they can. What else do I have? Oh, I made a name for myself one year.
You gotta carry that thing.
Oops,
Yeah,
sorry.
You can carry it. You can carry it.
Sorry, I forgot.
Okay.
I think actually we need to just, I'm going to take off the vest.
Okay. I got this.
Take off this too.
I appreciate you that you know, you look really good.
Oh, thank you.
That. I'll have you pin this on your thing just to make sure. We're getting really good audio, so I'm really
Good.
happy. That's always been my main nightmare. You put that on the side.
The year that we had Kenneth Branagh as the opening night party, that was the first opening night party I went to, I think. And I made a special point of preparing this collar, which has pictures from movies in general. But I made a point of trying to put a lot of movies on here that I had seen at the festival in past years. And Much Ado About Nothing is the centerpiece, which is what the Kenneth Branagh film was. And it was really nice because when Daryl, the head of the festival, spotted me, he really got excited. He says, "I want to see a whole gown like that." So this is one claim to fame I have, my famous collar.
How'd you make that? Did you just...
It's just magazine pictures cut out, pasted onto construction paper, and then I use star sequins and beads and nylon, you know, like fisherman's line, to weave the whole thing together. It's not quite as complicated as it looks, but it took a little bit of time.
Reminds me of the I met Liz Gardner, the person that won the Oscar for Priscilla, and she had the American Express dress, and I got her to sign.
Oh yes,
She signed
yes.
a picture of it for me.
Wow, I saw that. I thought that was in fact, it made me think of it too. I can't remember which came first, the chicken or the egg, but I enjoyed doing this.
Yeah. Well, thanks for sharing these stories. You told me interesting stuff and everything, and I will. I'll probably finish this thing probably within the next year and a half, 2 years, and it means a lot to me, the fact that you were open to me and you said, yeah, interview me, because some people are just so, you know, but I understand where they're coming from, so. Okay, John, you can share your experiences as a pass holder. When you get stumped, I'll just pop in.
Good. All right. Well, is this thing is running now, right?
Yeah.
And because the little red light is on. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, hi. I'm John Newman. I've been going to the Seattle International Film Festival for 8 years. I've been in Seattle 8 years. I've been going for 8 years, and I've had a pass for about 6 years. Had a great time there. I'll usually see about 50 films a year, sometimes up to 55 or so. And what I will do, I actually work, this is Microsoft right now, we're in my office, and I work full-time during the festival, which you can't get to much more than 50 while you're working full-time. So during the 3.5 weeks of the festival, I will get up, I'll go to work, I'll go to the movies, and then I go home and sleep, and then I do the same thing again the next day. So it's a very intense time for me. What I try to do with the festival, the way I try to contribute to it, is to sort of pass around information about what's happening and what films are good and what films aren't good. So while I'm there, while I'm on Capitol Hill going between the theaters, I'll always be buttonholing people and I'll say, hey, have you seen this? Is this any good? Have you seen that? Is that any good? What have you heard? And then when I'm done, over the past couple years, I will send out email to people and I will post post the information that I've received so that anybody who's trying to form their schedule for the next few days can just look at my post and see, oh gosh, well, Ulysses Gaze, for example, you definitely shouldn't see that. And that's the way I try to contribute to the festival.
Do you have any strategies for choosing movies to see? Do you have any personal favorites, or you just go whatever's in the theater?
Well, I guess everybody has their own way. There are a few things I'll try to see. I'll try to see German language stuff because I speak some German, and try to see Australian films and Hong Kong films because I tend to like those, and I'll avoid Eastern European films because I generally don't like them. But there's no absolute thing. Usually there's one thing I'll want to see and I don't want to change theaters, so I'll just sort of stay at that theater all day and hope that whatever it is will be good.
I know one of the things I was talking to other pass holders is we have certain strategies for food because we see more than one movie in the evening. So what's your strategy for food during the festival?
Well, I always carry around a backpack, and I will usually have an essential sandwich and a couple little drinks in there, or else I'll pick up a sandwich at the University District. So yeah, I mean, technically you're not supposed to bring food into the theaters with all the little crinkly wrappers and so forth, but in practice they're not real hardcore about that. You have to bring food, otherwise you won't make it, especially late at night.
I noticed you mentioned earlier that you do the email thing. How does your Microsoft job kind of relate to your passion of films? Is it two totally unrelated things, or
they are pretty much unrelated things. Certainly the internet, email and bulletin boards and so forth are a really good way to find out about movies, and this is my opportunity to put in a plug for my webpage, which I'm still putting together, but this is, make sure you get that right. This is my personal webpage. Hopefully it will still be up at the time that you're actually watching this. It's http://www.aa.net/JONN. So if you go there around festival time, you'll see pointers to where you can find my reviews. You'll also see pointers to other useful things like the Internet Movie Database, which will have complete cast lists on just about every movie that's ever been made, right down to the key grip, and pointers to the James Bardinelli reviews and so forth. There are a lot of people out there who are much more serious about this than I am. I just do the festival, but there are people who will see almost everything and review everything, and there are reviews out there which are easily at the same quality or better quality than most of the reviewers you'll see in the newspapers or on television. So if you're connected, you can get out there and find out what's good.
I think there must be like 4 or 5 full series people that have a website. It'd be kind of neat to see them if they could get interrelated. You can click on one and jump to this guy's page.
Well, mine, I will certainly try to have pointers on mine to everybody else's and to get pointers to mine on everybody else's. So it all gets to be one immense web of information.
Do Do you know of any other people that have web pages that you can refer me to?
Well,
Rox
does, although that's still in a fledgling state. There's Anita Rowland's Book of Days, and she has a fair number of movie reviews as well as other miscellaneous stuff. And I'll be assembling pointers to things right up there as I find them.
Remember, have you had any star encounters? I know the Seattle Film Festival gets these movie stars that come up every once in a while. Have you bumped into any or asked any silly questions?
Oh, I'm not heavily into the fan worship thing. I've certainly run into a few people, but I usually don't ask questions. But it's interesting to be at the festival. This is one of the things that's great about the festival, is to be there and to have a chance to see the directors and hear what they're saying about their films and so forth. Even when the film isn't a very good one, which is often the case, it's still interesting to hear the director talk about what he was trying to do.
You remember any festival incidents? I know a couple years ago there was a bomb scare. I don't know if you were in.
I was in the theater. I was at an Iranian film, and at the time I thought, well, it's an Iranian film, it was a bomb scare, it must of course have been related to that. As it turns out, it probably wasn't. I don't know who in the world would threaten to blow up this particular movie, which was easily one of the slowest and most boring cinematic productions I've ever seen. The general consensus is it was probably related to a film out of Croatia that was playing at a different time, but in the same theater. There have been, occasionally there'll be an incident like that, but fortunately we haven't had too much of that.
Any other stories you can recall, and maybe the past festival, anything out of the ordinary happened?
Out of the ordinary? Well, I guess all I can say is that I have a lot of strong memories about some films, and writing reviews of every film, which is what I've been trying to do for the past year, really helps me remember exactly what I've seen, which can be very difficult when you're seeing 50 movies over the course of 3.5 weeks. But I remember it was a film called Butterfly Wings, which was, you remember that one?
No,
yeah?
I haven't seen that.
Oh, okay. That was a Spanish film, an incredible tearjerker, just outrageous. You would have to have seen it. And I guess that's what really convinced me to start doing this sort of semi-seriously, sort of really trying to see a lot of movies and take advantage of the festival. Of course, it's never been released, so you'll never be able to see it. And that's so often the case with a lot of these films, that the really good ones, that one, Louis 19, is another one I can think of.
I've seen that.
Oh yeah, really side-splitting. And for whatever reason, they just don't come out. And I don't know why they don't come out. But this is the chance to go there and see things that nobody else will ever get a chance to see.
Well, John, I noticed you mentioned you went to the Seattle Festival for 8 years.
Mm-hmm.
How do you think it has changed since 8 years ago as according to now? Because I remember a long time ago there was different theaters and market theater.
Right. The theater list has changed. I think that, well, for one thing, it's more expensive now, which sort of disturbs me. I'm worried that as the price for the full series pass goes up, that some people who I like to see when I'm there are going to start getting priced out of it. I know of some people who can't get full series passes anymore. And one of the great things about being there's a little crew of people that you always meet. Everybody sits in their own special seat, and you get together and you chat between the films. And if those people get priced out, and if this becomes sort of like Sundance, where you see the producers and the big stars and the miscellaneous film company people taking everything over, then it won't be the same festival it is now. So that's my major concern about it, is the direction it's taking in terms of getting to be really big and really expensive and flying lots of people everywhere. I don't mean to criticize the people who are running the festival, because they do an incredible amount of work, and obviously they also have a vision for the festival to be more than it is. I just hope that it doesn't go too far in the direction that, for example, ordinary people like myself and like the people who I like to see there can't get in anymore.
Because that was one of my questions about changes that you'd like to see, or any other changes that you didn't like or you did like.
Well, one thing I would like to see changed is an improvement in the sound system in the Egyptian, of course. Everyone complains about that, and better projection in the Broadway what's the one?
Broadway Performance.
The Broadway Performance Hall. They always have problems there. By and large, things have gone pretty well. They don't have too many last-minute cancellations. Some years they've had problems with that. But rather than complain about the festival, I'd really like to thank the people who work so hard to put it together. I'm not one of the people who put it together. I just go to it. And I can see what an incredible amount of work it is to coordinate the gathering this much film at the right place at the right time. And you have to take your hat off to the folks who do it.
Do you have any seating secrets? You know, where's the best place to see movies? It's impressive.
Well, the best seating secret, of course, is to have a full series pass, because the movies that are popular and that have good word, and especially those that have big stars in them, are going to sell out. And so one of the great things about having a pass is you can just breeze to the front of the line and sort of wave your pass in front of people and generally cut in line and do terrible things like that. So that's the best thing. Everybody likes to sit in a different area. Some people sit way in the front row, which I don't understand. Some people sit up in the balcony, which I don't understand. If you're looking for me in the Egyptian, I will be in the upper orchestra section near the right aisle.
So have you met any special friends that you see year-round outside the festival, or just basically you see them just during the festival?
There are a lot of people who I just see during the festival. I guess it's only really Max who I keep up with, Maxine Chen. I don't know if you're going to have a chance to talk to her.
I'd like to.
I'm sure she'll have lots of interesting things to say about that and about anything. But she's about the only one who I really run into on a regular basis, plus a few people who are also Microsoft employees.
Have you ever gone to any other film festivals, or has the Seattle one just been
This is about it. I went to the Berlinale. I went to a few films at the Berlinale when I was living there back in '86. But that was an example of a festival that had gotten to be very big, and basically rather than choosing what you wanted to go to, you would go to the ticket office, and if they happened to have anything left, they might let you in to see it, sort of, you know, off in the Sundance direction. And I'm certainly hoping that the Seattle Festival won't be going in that direction.
So have you seen, what do you think of the local productions? I know every year at the festival they have some filmmakers from Seattle. Have you ever kept up with any of those films? Or?
I don't make a point of seeing the really local films. Maybe I should more. Some of them are decent. Steaming Milk was pretty good this year, although it needed a little discipline. Some can actually be quite bad, I'm afraid. But I try to see the international films more than I try to see the really local films.
Yeah, anything else you think of to say?
Anything else I can think of?
That you want to gripe about or yell about, or I know you praise the festival people.
Yeah, definitely I'd like to do that. And I just want to say hi to all the crazy folks out there who see not just the 50 I see, but 100 or 130. Rox in particular deserves a lot of credit for what he's done. I hope that you'll have a chance to see his setup.
Yeah.
And no, that's about it.
That's pretty good. So what kind of setup is, I mean, I think he lives in Bellingham right now.
Right. Well, I can show you because
Okay.
I've got the stuff right up here. What he does is he collects information about what pass holders liked and what pass holders didn't like. So around the end of the festival, we'll all get a form like this one where we get to rate every film on a scale of sort of 1 to 9, from least favorite to guilty pleasure to most favorite. And then at the very last night, he'll stay up all night and collect them all and put together a sheet of exactly what the scores were for each film, which looks kind of like this. It's a little small. You probably won't be able to read it in detail.
That's okay.
Hopefully he'll get it up on his website soon. But it has things like the most liked films, the least liked films, least favorite films, films that that the people who liked them, people who saw them liked, but that you might have missed, and so forth. And so that's generally, if you see this, then you have a pretty good head start on what will be showing at the National Repertory, Art House Repertory sorts of theaters over the course of the year. You can, of course, also get a hold of my reviews, which, as I said, are out there on the web. And here are some of them. It takes a lot of time to put these things together, but I'll review everything I see, sometimes only in a sentence or two, and I'll also pass the word on what I've heard is good. Again, there'll be a pointer to this stuff on my website. I keep notes during every film. I've always got a little stenographic notebook with me, and I will make little scrawlings, which are sometimes actually legible when I come to look at them afterwards, but it's hard to write when you can't see anything.
Just one last thing. What do you mention when you write a review about? Do you talk about the plot or the action?
Well, my reviews are generally only a few sentences, and the major point I'm trying to convey is whether or not someone should see a film or who should see it, rather than to try to give away the plot and so on and so forth. So I really try to be very much to the point. I'll try to imitate the big reviewers and come up with some wonderful catchphrase. G.I. Jane, for example, was Top Gun with boobs. So, and there'll be others like that. But I'm generally just trying to let people know what they should see and what they should avoid.
Well, thank you.
Well, thanks a lot, Doug. I hope this comes out well for you.
It'll turn out.